tale of action, intrigue, and the cataclysmic combination of colonialism and Cold War arms races. Hello everyone, it is Tuesday, I am Tuesday, and today we're going to be analyzing the Consul, the main point of view character in Dan Simmons Hyperion. This is going to be a full spoiler video, so here's your warning. If you want to hear my general thoughts about the book, check out my last video, which is more of a general analysis / review. Otherwise, please leave a like or a comment. I read all of them and respond to most, so feel free to start up a conversation down below. Also, content warning for this stuff. Anyway, you ready? On the morning of January 17, 1893, a group of 13 plantation owners, backed by members of the white landed gentry and a platoon of U.S. Marines, successfully instigated a coup against the Hawaiian monarchy. Citing American national interest, the group set up a provisional government for the space of a year and a half, ending on July 4th, 1894, when they elected Sanford B. Dole, brother of James Dole, yeah, that Dole, as president of the newly formed Republic of Hawaii. Don't let that verbiage fool you, though. A representative democracy, this was not. This was an oligarchy of the strictest persuasion, which effectively existed as a U.S. puppet state until its annexation in 1898. It was ruled over by members of fruit corporations and their families, acted as a portent of what we would do to the Caribbean and South America, and paved the way for the white settler tourism industry that is a major contributing factor to the Hawaiian economy to this day, at the detriment of the native peoples who still live there, effectively existing as second-class citizens in their own homeland. What does this have to do with the Consul, though? Well, there's a reason why his home planet, a paradisical water world speckled with roaming islands, is named the Maui Covenant. There's a reason why the dolphins all went extinct, and there's a reason why the leader of the hegemony is referred to as the CEO. There just isn't a way to talk about Hyperion without bringing up colonialism. The Consul's tale, entitled Remembering Siri, explores the years leading up to Siri's rebellion through the eyes of the Consul's grandfather, Marin Aspic. Marin was a shipwright, contracted to build the Farcaster portal which would connect Maui Covenant to the rest of the world web. The time debt for such a project was immense, 70 years in total for the 6 or so Marin actually experienced. At the same time, the pay was outstanding. So long as Marin, and the thousands of other people working on crews just like him, finished the project, he would be able to retire at the ripe old age of 24 and live out the rest of his days as an exorbitantly wealthy man. At the age of 18, Marin's future is set concretely in his mind. As it turns out, life has other plans. On his first visit to Maui Covenant, Marin becomes romantically involved with the daughter of a noble family named Siri. What follows is a series of 8 dialogues between them in the vein of Melody or Plato, which take place during their 8 reunions, as Siri ages over 70 years while Marin effectively stays the same. Physically, that is. Over the course of 6 years, Marin's outlook on his job, his effect on the culture and ecology of Maui Covenant, and even what it means to live a long and fulfilling life, changed drastically. At the beginning of his assignment, he nonchalantly understands that opening the Farcaster portal will provide geopolitical security to the planet at the cost of the commercialization of its landscape and culture, and the exploitation of its people. By the time he blows up the Farcaster portal he helped to build, Marin sees this transformation for the fundamental horror that it is. He allies himself with the Dolphins and the Separatist revolutionaries in Siri's extended family in an effort to hold the galactic colonial powers at bay in a movement reminiscent of Hawaii's Wilcox Rebellion. He dies, fighting the fight that is just and good, the fight that will always be just and good, only to have his children welcome the galactic government anyway. Again, you might ask what this has to do with the Consul outside of the familial relation. Well, the Consul is just as revolutionary as his grandfather was, despite being an agent of the United States, galactic government. In fact, he tried to join the rebel cause at the age of 20, only not going through with it because Marin personally convinced him not to. Instead, the Consul has dedicated his life to the centralization of galactic power, been the architect and the executor of a handful of genocides not dissimilar to the eradication of the dolphins on his homeworld, and helped to start one of the bloodiest wars in the history of the web, indirectly causing the death of both his wife and son. The Consul has lied, cheated, and murdered his way into the inner circles of the upper echelons of galactic power. Why? So he can ensure the world web's demise. Marin Aspic remembered Siri and did his best to ensure the Consul did the same, albeit in a, let's say, questionably utilitarian mode of operation. Through all his years of service to the system, the Consul remembered what had been done to his people and was able to peel back the curtain as to why it had been done. You see, colonial empires, along with the corporate conglomerates which evolved out of them, fundamentally rely on two specific things: expansion and profit. A colonial venture can be considered to have failed when it no longer provides profit to the corporation or empire which has formed it. Unfortunately for the leaders of these organizations, the amount of capital which can be extracted from a colony is finite, and over long periods of time, profit margins are likely to diminish in relation to things like cost of maintenance. As a result of this, corporate and empirical interests must constantly expand the breadth of their power while simultaneously reducing any possible competition. This is why, on a grand scale, monopolies form and empires tend to go to war. The eradication of conflict, coupled with constant expansion, is an intrinsic and necessary component of any system which demands an infinite increase of profitability. Of course, this is impossible. Resources and our ability to utilize them are finite. The idea of an infinite parabolic growth chart is fundamentally unsustainable, and any system that claims otherwise is predicated on a foundation as weak as sand against the tides. Nothing can grow forever. It is antithetical to the very fabric of our universe, but the thing is, the bosses and the leaders know this. They are conscious of the fact they can't prevent their inevitable downfall, so instead they try to put it off for as long as possible, pass the buck down the generational line until well after they're dead and no longer have to deal with it. The Consul understands this. He's been instrumental in stagnating and hegemonizing the cultures and technologies of the world web, all to the benefit of the political and economic leaders to whom he has been a wonderful lapdog. But he hardly agrees with it. In fact, quite the opposite. The Consul sees the stagnation he has helped to instill as detrimental to humanity as a whole. Change, while not always for the best, is necessary for society to advance. The eradication of quote-unquote alien cultures and peoples is not simply a travesty for the people and groups experiencing oppression. It is also severely detrimental to the cultures and groups who are doing the oppressing. One of the reasons why genocide is considered to be so heinous is that on top of the mass killings of ethnic or racial groups and the systematic destruction of thousands of years of history and culture, it tries to destroy any potential for human evolution, interaction, and understanding. It forces us to lose not just a past which is irreplaceable, but also a future of infinite possibility. It is a crime against history itself, a mockery against the basic idea of human potentiality, and is practiced by imperial forces like the galactic hegemony every single day. Within the pages of Hyperion, only one group of people has been able to escape from this oppressive, all-encompassing force: a group of spacefaring humanoids known as the Ousters. These people are central to the Consul's plans, though they aren't really aware of that fact. Little to anyone's knowledge, the Consul has directed the opening of the Time Tombs and forced the forces of the Ousters and the hegemony into direct conflict. 4. Despite all the evil he has done, the Consul knows that the fight against Empire is always just and good. Marin Aspic taught him this when he was just a boy, and he has remembered Siri all throughout his years traveling the cosmos. No matter who the winner is in the series going forward, the Consul is sure of one thing. A war to the magnitude that he has created will finally force humanity to change. Which is how we get to the Cold War stuff. You see, the hegemony and the Ousters have been planning to kill each other for a while now. It's just that there's never been a reason for either side to actually attempt to do so. Like the Americans and Soviets before them, the hegemony and the Ousters believe themselves to be in parity when it comes to military might. Any direct conflict between them would at best result in a Pyrrhic victory for whoever was left standing, but would be much more likely to annihilate both parties entirely. As a result, whenever hostilities spilled over into open confrontation, it usually took the form of convoy raiding, deep space skirmishes, and a notable border war. At the same time, each side was constantly trying to push the boundaries of their technology so that if the big one ever did happen, their side would be the ones left standing. So, we have two imperial powers locked in a frozen conflict, vying for the same resources while juicing their militaries in the hopes of annihilating their enemies en masse. Every time we've seen this happen in real history, it's always ended peacefully. By the time the Consul sets the Time Tombs to open, war was all but inevitable, even called for in the highest halls of both sides of the conflict. All the Consul's really doing is standing in a propane-filled grenade factory that he helped prime, grinning gleefully while striking a match. What I mean to say is that only a spark of justification was needed to send the galaxy into chaos, and he happily acted as that spark. Was that the wrong choice? I don't know. I really don't think any of us can. Was it an evil choice, though? I would argue not. The Consul has come to the correct belief that empires are detrimental to the advancement of human civilization. They consume and destroy, commit atrocities, and grind out culture in the ever-opulent and unimpeachable name of maintaining the status quo. They have a penchant for imploding under the weight of their own corruption and greed, and a tendency to leave trails of unimaginable suffering and death wherever they go. It is by witnessing this cycle firsthand that the Consul has come to the conclusion that the empire of the hegemony must cease to exist, despite what harm its cessation might cause. In his mind, it is better to have a war that dwarfs any seen before in the history of humanity than to allow the hegemony to continue, because maintaining the status quo is more detrimental to people at large in the long term.
With that being said, I want to open it up to you. What do you think about the Consul, his motivations, his history? Do you think I'm getting a good read on the political and social undertones of his character? If not, why? Please, let me know in the comments down below. Like, subscribe, or watch some of my other stuff if you haven't already. If somehow you've come across this video without finding my general review, the link will be down in the description. As always, it is Tuesday, I am Tuesday, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye!